Our first stop in Africa is Johannesburg in South Africa, but that's just a stopover. The real objective, the real first objective, is Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe. This is a map of the area. Victoria Falls is near the center. Victoria Falls is part of the country of Zimbabwe. And in the center, lower center of the map, is Botswana, where we'll be spending most of our time. In the north is Zambia. To the northwest is Angola. And to the west, which we'll also be visiting, is Namibia. From Victoria Falls, we're traveling overland to Chobe National Park, which is in Botswana. Botswana. This is Chobe National Park. Chobe National Park is reputed to have 120,000 elephants. Let's go take a look at some of them. On our first day out, we were driving along and we were going through a kind of a thinly wooded area, and suddenly we were surrounded by elephants. Elephants on all sides, and there was no warning that that was going to happen. Well, while we're waiting, let's talk about the elephant graveyard that I think everybody has heard about and nobody believes in.
How much ivory is there really up there? More than the largest safari can carry back. Strange instinct that leads elephants to one particular spot to die. Fortunate one for us, though. Oh, I'm not complaining. If you're sure you can find the burial ground.
So is there really an elephant burial grounds? Well, in a sense there is. That is, you often find bones of elephants, many individuals sometimes, in one spot. In some cases that's because they all died at the same time. But there is another explanation, and that is elephants have 6 sets of teeth, and as they get older they go through their last set of teeth. When they do that, they can no longer can browse quite as efficiently as these elephants are doing, and they have to move on to softer things to eat, sedges and grasses and things like that, that you're much more likely to find in particular areas. Now, because you're more likely to find them in particular areas, you're more likely to find very old elephants in particular areas. And because of that, you're much more likely to find elephant bones near that kind of grass. One thing I did notice was that this area has not only a healthy elephant population, but lots and lots of baby elephants. The most popular food for cats is probably impala. This is a male impala, and he's got a little oxpecker working on him, taking off ticks and such. Impala are the favorite food of virtually every kind of cat. Lions like them, leopards like them, even wild dogs and cheetahs are likely to take them from time to time. So the impala have to be very fast. The impala are said to be the favorite fast food in part because it's said that they have an M on their behinds. The M is supposed to stand for McDonald's of the bush. But like I said, these things can run, and apparently they really enjoy running. These guys are running for no particular reason. There's nothing chasing them. They're just enjoying themselves very early in the morning. And they go round and round and round, and then they stop for a little while, and then they'll start running again. They're running just for the fun of it, just for the feel of running. And notice how exaggerated their movements are. There's a type of running called pronking, and it requires an extra amount of energy, and the whole body is thrown up high into the air and pronking. And pronking is to signal to a predator that you're in fine shape and there's no point in trying to hunt you. These guys are sable antelope. You can tell them by their very long horns and very dark coloration. They're much heavier and larger than the impala, and they're also quite fast. Here we have some crossing the road, a fairly large herd. And one of the things that they're going to do, which is kind of interesting, is they're going to put out kind of a road guard. There's going to be one of those sable antelope just kind of looking us in the eye on the road while everybody else crosses. And when everybody else is basically finished crossing, he rejoins the herd. We're getting ready now to move on to warthogs. Warthogs have a peculiar feature about them. Of course, when you see a warthog, you think pig, but their necks are very, very short. And the result of that is that when they browse or when they are grazing grass on the ground, they cannot reach their mouth down to the ground easily. The only way that they can do that is if they're on their knees. So you very often see warthogs walking around, grazing with their on their knees. Now this is a slender mongoose. Now most mongoose go about in mobs, is what a herd of mongoose is called, a mob. But this one tends to be going about in pairs, or this one happens to be solitary. The slender mongoose, unlike others, is very slightly built and has a very weaselly appearance. The primary primate in this neighborhood happens to be the baboon, and they roam around in troops as opposed to mobs. This looks like the leader of a troop right here, sleeping by the termite mound. And there's a bunch of females and some babies not far by. And one of the mothers here is grooming her kid. I think it's kind of cute, so I'm going to zoom in on the baby baboon. This isn't the only baboon in the neighborhood. There are a couple of other youngsters playing in the trees. Incidentally, you have to be careful with baboons. Not only do they have a nasty bite because they carry a lot of germs to which humans are naturally susceptible, just like any other monkey, but baboons actually have longer canines than a lion's. Now, they're not as thick as a lion's canines, but they are longer, and that makes them a very vicious predator. As a matter of fact, a troop of baboons does have the capability of killing a leopard. We're going to be moving on to the steenbok next. Steenbok is Afrikaans for what the Germans would have called Steinbach, but in any event, it happens to be the smallest antelope in this particular neighborhood, and as you're about to see, it's one of those very, very fast creatures. This next animal is the guinea fowl. You might have seen some in the United States. The guinea fowl is edible, but its meat tends to be quite tough, and so the natives have a local recipe for it. They say boil the guinea fowl with a stone, and when the stone becomes soft, you throw the guinea fowl away and you eat the stone. The next bird that you're about to see is Zazu. That's Zazu in the Swahili language, as you might know him from the Lion King. In English, this bird is a red-billed hornbill. It actually comes in two colors, the red-billed hornbill, and then there's a yellow-billed hornbill. The red-billed hornbill is sometimes called the flying chili pepper, whereas, of course, the yellow-billed hornbill is the flying banana. The next bird is the African fish eagle, and you're going to notice that it bears a striking resemblance to the American bald eagle. The two birds are very similar in size, coloring, and behavior. Here we see a fish eagle eating a fish that she's caught, and her mate is interested in getting in on the action. One of the things that you might have noticed is that the terrain looks very dry. In fact, I planned this trip to be at the end of the dry season, and the previous flood season had been fairly ineffective, and so it's extremely dry here this time of year. However, Chobe is very fortunate in that it has a fairly constant source of water, the Chobe River. And in our next scene, we're going to be taking a trip out on the Chobe River, and we're going to be seeing considerably different terrain and much more lush vegetation there.
Okay, that's close enough. Oh my gosh.
Do you know these birds? Water teacup. The person I was with said, "Paddle, Russ, paddle!" And I think I said something else. But it drenched both of us.
Wow.
Look at that little bird.
Now here's something that's a little bit unusual. The hippo normally grazes at night. Part of the reason for that is because they like to stay cool, and part of the reason is because they don't like to get too much sun. On cloudy days, it's not unusual for them to come out and do a little bit of grazing. But today, it's a little bit on the sunny side to see the hippos out and about grazing. Nevertheless, there's not only this hippo out grazing in the sun, but there are a number of them, and it's not even very early in the morning. It's closer to noontime.
Would that make a good advertisement for Jeannie Craig?
Yes, absolutely. What are those in the background? Are those more hippos?
More hippos and
Water buck.
and
Almost every morning I got up well before the sun was up, In this case, it's probably about 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And on occasion, I was rewarded for getting up early. In this particular case, I heard some noise on the other side of the lodge, and it occurred to me that I should go over there and take a look. And I saw a number of elephants coming up on the far side of the lodge. And I'm going to spend several minutes here just showing you what I saw. Of course, it's still quite dark out, but the sun is almost up, and so the light is fairly good. There must be about 30 elephants in this family. This is a group of cows and calves, so you'll find no large bull elephants in this group. The one that's in charge of the group is usually Grandma, and Grandma is leading them over to water. The lodge had a large cement pool made some distance from the lodge so that its closeness wouldn't deter the animals. And the lodge is situated so that it has a perfect view of the watering pool. And the watering pool usually brought in some animals in the very early morning. Notice how quiet the elephants are moving. I sometimes say that the elephants tiptoe this way or that way, but in fact, elephants always tiptoe. If you take a look at an elephant skeleton, it is in fact standing mostly on its toes. There is a ball of cartilage below the heel of the elephant, and it makes the elephant's foot look fat, but in fact that cartilage acts as a shock absorber, and it's very much like he's wearing sneakers. So if you can imagine that the elephant is going on his tiptoes wearing sneakers, that'll help you to understand why he's so quiet. Well, we're getting ready to leave Chobe National Park now. In fact, we'll be leaving Botswana. We're headed up to Namibia this time, to an area that's called the Caprivi Strip. The Caprivi Strip is a small strip of land extending from the main part of Namibia out towards the Zambezi River. And it's this little strip of land that has a river along it, which was the Chobe River that you saw before, and it separates Angola from Botswana, and we'll be going there mostly by air. From the point where we land, however, the trip into Namibia is not nearly complete. First of all, we have to get from the landing strip to a boat on a river, and in between there's a stretch of ground. So we have to do a land march, and that march is universally known as the Death March. Once we get to the little river, it's simply a matter of getting on a boat and taking the boat on up to the lodge. And it's several miles, however. It takes us a little while to do that. The little bird that you're about to see is called the African jacana. However, you might know it by another name, the lily trotter. Now, doesn't this papyrus swamp remind you of something? It certainly reminds me of something. We certainly got more hippo footage here than I've ever had in my life. I think I got a lifetime supply of shots of hippos.
Sounds impressive. Oh, look at him.
Well, so much for hippos. Incidentally, a group of hippos moving together is a pod. The next shot, we take a look at mongoose again, but in this particular case, it's a banded mongoose, and banded mongoose, do travel in mobs. Incidentally, there's going to be a little mongoose, a baby mongoose, come out of the hole there in a second, and you'll get a chance to see it. Next, we have a spring hare. This is a rabbit, but in fact, it looks very much like a kangaroo. Watch how it moves about. Just before sundown one day, we stopped at a watering hole, which is what we normally did at the end of the day. And I was talking to the guide, and the guide's back was to the vehicle. But I could see beyond him, and what I saw was an elephant herd coming up to drink, and we were right immediately in their path. Well, this was a real problem because our people were scattered out all over everywhere, and we had to gather them back into the vehicle. In the meantime, the elephants started skirting around us to the side to get to the water, and that's what they're doing here. They're moving to the side. Now, this is a herd of cows and calves. You can see that they have quite a few babies, and grandmother here is in charge. And grandmother is very, very nervous because they have a very young newborn, and she wants to make sure that it's positively safe. Now, as the elephant started to break out into the open in order to get to the pool, Grandma faced us, and she gave us a quick mock charge. Now, that unfortunately I didn't get on film, but here you can see how nervous everybody is. They're facing us, they're throwing their ears wide out, and they're making it very clear that we're not to approach any closer.
Go ahead.
There's some elephant drinking water in that area. We know where we manage water.
Okay, copied. Many thanks. We're now close to the main road at Santika.
Okay, thank you very much. I thought maybe you were close by.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Males is a problem because they all come straight and defend themselves, but females,
At this point, the guide started the vehicle and moved it to the place where the elephants had been. However, the rear guard of the elephants turned around and gave us another mock charge, and that'll add a little bit more excitement.
Said that. Was it something I said?
Next, we're going to take a look at a Namibian green snake, which was staying near the lodge. It's mildly venomous and front-fanged. This next is a water monitor lizard. Right there. These little birds are carmine bee eaters. They burrow little holes in the banks of the river, and that's the little colony of them there, and they nest in those. As we floated by in our boat, we scared them up pretty badly, and they came out in a flurry of color. They're very colorful, as you can see. Here I'm going to be showing you a bee eater with a bee in his mouth. Can you see it? Next we have a water monitor trying to rob the carmine bee eater's nest, and there's going to be a bee eater swoop down and attack him. And watch close, there it is. Well, we're on our way back to the airport now, and that means we've taken a little boat cruise and we're back to the Death March. This time we're traveling out of Namibia back to Botswana, to an area of Botswana called the Okavango. I'm going to be explaining the Okavango in a few minutes. The Okavango is to the west and slightly south of where Chobe was located, in an area that is annually flooded. Welcome to the Okavango in Botswana. The Okavango is at the end of the Vango River. The Oka, as part of the name, indicates that this is a delta. The Vango River originates in Angola, and the rains in Angola annually come flooding down through the Vango River into the Okavango Delta. The delta used to extend all the way into the Limpopo River, but today it disappears into the Kalahari Desert and goes no further. Last year's flood wasn't particularly good, and it's been the dry season, as I've said before. Things are very, very dry, much drier than usual. And numbers of animals have been dying of thirst, including Cape buffalo, as you see, and elephants as well. In Botswana, they don't use the terms dollar or rand or pound. For their currency, they call it pula. Pula is their name for rain. Rain is extremely important in Botswana. It's their source of wealth.
For rain, for rain, for rain, for rain, beautiful rain, don't disturb me, beautiful rain. Oh, come, never come, oh, come, never come, oh, come to me, beautiful rain. Oh, come, never come, oh, come, never come, oh, come to me, beautiful rain. Rain, 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 rain. Beautiful rain, 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 beautiful rain. Oh, come, never come, oh, come, never come, oh,
Next we see a black-backed jackal. Now jackals usually run in pairs, so you always look for the second jackal when you see the first one. And here is the mate. Now, one thing that you might not have thought about was that virtually all those antelope, all those female antelope that we've seen so far, were probably pregnant. They hold their babies until after the first rain. So after the first rain, all the babies start dropping. And here we have a baby impala, probably just born in the last few hours. Next we see some baby tessipi. These are very similar to topi, and Mom has probably left them in the deep grass, which is not very far away, but they wandered out onto the road against Mom's instructions. The zebra moms are also dropping their babies as well.
Okay. Okay. Wait.
This little baby water buck acts like he's never seen a vehicle before, and perhaps he hasn't. While driving around, we spotted some vultures in a tree. Now, it was late in the day and they might have just been there to roost, but we decided that we would go off-road and we would look to see what those vultures were doing. It was possible that they were at the site of a kill, and in fact they were. We discovered a dead giraffe. The curious thing about this dead giraffe was that it was under a pile of brush, and that brush had all been cut by people. Well, we got in touch with the other jeep at sundown, and they wanted to see the giraffe too, so we went out at night, cross country, looking for that giraffe. Now, we never did find the giraffe at night. However, we did bump into some interesting things. Every once in a while, we could get a faint whiff of the giraffe. If you were close to the giraffe, it was pungent, but we didn't get that close at night. Although we didn't find the giraffe at night, we did run across some interesting creatures. In fact, we ran across this puff adder almost literally. He was virtually right in the track of the vehicle. Now, puff adders are ambush predators. They kill more people in Africa than any other snake, and they have deadly, deadly poison. Think of them as rattlesnakes without the rattle. However, puff adders have cytotoxic venom, which means that your flesh rots, which is really bad. The other thing that we saw at night, which was terribly, terribly interesting, was we ran into a pride of lions. This pride of 8 lions was just sitting in the grass, minding its own business, not doing anything in particular, when we happened to roll up almost in the middle of them. The pride was mostly females with 2 young males with them. The older males of the pride were not then present. After we left, during the night, the Pride found the hidden giraffe that we had been looking for.
No hyenas, huh? Would the hyenas don't come to the king when the lions are around like this? What will you just keep walking around?
The next morning, the lions were still at the site of the kill.
Call that when Carol is starting to chew.
Now, the traditional way for the natives to get around on water is for using a dugout canoe, which they call a morocco, which is kind of like what they've got here. Here, the gentleman is showing us his fishing catch of the day. And we basically tried the same form of transportation out on a small pond. The difference between what we were doing and what the natives were doing in part was probably that we had somebody there to run all the hippos out of the pool beforehand. This poor hippo standing on land is very unhappy with us. He had intended to be in the pool where we were rowing about. This old hippo has been having lots of fights. Look at the scars on his shoulder. And a new challenger is appearing on the horizon, and he's moving to meet that challenge at this very moment.
One of his ears is chewed off.
The challenger, however, is considerably smaller than the champion that you're looking at right now. And as the two hippos get closer and closer, the challenger realizes how small he is and decides that discretion is the better part of valor. I have been told that the word giraffe comes from the Arabic, which means go fast. And in this next scene, you'll see that giraffes can in fact move quite fast.
See it, Mark?
This is good. This next bird is a round hornbill. It's similar to the red-billed and yellow-billed hornbill that you saw earlier, but it's much, much larger. This bird can fly, and he's nearly turkey size.
The wattle?
Well, it's a wattle, but that's not what we call it.
Gullet?
I thought we called it that.
The turkey wattle?
Now we're going to be leaving Botswana again, but this departure is the last time we're leaving Botswana.
River part one is closed while we're getting to the these are just the channels from the river part.
We're flying now from the Okavango to Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe, and then from Victoria Falls we're going to be flying out to Hwanga National Park, which is also in Zimbabwe. Once we get there, the first animal that we're going to take a look at is going to be the scarab beetle or dung beetle, and he's going to be rolling his treasure along. And notice that his girlfriend is on the ball of dung that he's got. They're going to lay eggs in that ball. He's going to bury it, and that's going to be the nest egg for the children, if you will. These next are kudu, and they have some wonderfully big horns on these three males that we're going to be looking at. The way you can tell kudu is by the spiral twist in the male's horns.
He's a big guy. These guys are easy prey when they're running in the bushes.
He got an oxpecker on his back.
Oh, yeah, I've heard it. Yeah.
Okay. Over to the right.
These are bat-eared foxes, a desert fox similar to our kit fox. There's a pair of them here, and they've dug a nest, and you can see one of the little kits down in there. And actually there's more than one. You're going to be seeing two of them in just a couple of seconds.
Wait, babies.
We got a shot or a pound.
They get the puppy.
He's still got his one ear stuck up there.
You have to be more quiet.
This next is a crown crane that's putting on a display for us.
Fix it. He really did. Now I can't find it.
Next, these two male zebra are fighting. It doesn't appear to be serious, however, and one of them appears to be much larger than the other. I believe that this is probably a case where Dad is trying to teach the kid how things are done. Incidentally, a group of zebra are called a dazzle, and although I never mentioned it, a group of giraffes standing around are called a tower. And if they're traveling in a group, if a giraffe are traveling in a group, you call them a journey. The next animals that we're going to be seeing are lions again. We're going to see two young females and a young male. It's an adult male, but his mane is still yellow. It's not a dark brown, so we know that he's fairly young. And the young female right there is extremely curious about us. As soon as the vehicle drives up, she immediately goes to inspect. And then, of course, she settles back down again. We then proceed to drive over closer to the adult male so that we can get some pictures of him, and we leave the young lady behind for the moment. But the young female lion is a little bit antsy, and she really can't settle down. She's licking herself, she's rolling over, and different things. Eventually, the young female gets up and she decides that she's going to walk over to where the male lion is to see if she can get something going with him. But he pays her no mind. After this, we decide the lion show is about over, so we start to go. Now, when we go, we have to pass those two young lions again, those two lionesses. And when we do, the young lioness comes out, and this time she very nearly gets in the car with us. Effectively speaking, the guide has just shaken his finger at the lion and said something to the equivalent of "No, no, bad kitty," and the cat turns around and walks away. Now, one of the reasons why there's as much wildlife as there is here is because there are various pans, shallow pools that are filled with water. And this isn't an accident. This area used to be involved in cattle raising, and the settlers came in and put in pumps, and they irrigated these particular pans, keeping them full of water. Well, cattle raising failed in this area, but the pumps remained, and that has kept the wildlife population fairly stable to high. Now, one thing that's coming up that you haven't seen before is our guide. He's going to be explaining to you how you can tell a male from a female elephant dung. In other words, he's going to be looking at the dung, telling you whether it came from an elephant that was male or female.
The male is salty.
Is this one of your bullshit stories? Oh, no.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It's salty for a male and
Sweet for the female. Well, of course.
We are returning now to Victoria Falls for the last time now. This time, we're actually going to be taking a look at the falls. This is Victoria Falls, over a mile wide, and with a 300-foot drop. It's a good thing this is the dry season, because in the rainy season, there's so much water pours over, it's 10 times what you see here.
Dr. Livingston, I presume.
Dr. Livingston is still well known and respected in Africa. He did three things. He helped to encourage the exploration of Africa, to discover the source of the Nile. He helped to abolish slavery, and he popularized the Victoria Falls, on which this area happens to depend for tourism. I said that it's a good thing that this is the dry season, because 10 times as much water flows over these falls during the flood. Well, the reason for that is because during the flood, so much water is going over that is creating so much mist that you actually cannot see the falls themselves. Incidentally, the local term, the local name for these falls is translated as the smoke that thunders. In his journal, Dr. David Livingston wrote about the falls, and he said, quote, "On sights as beautiful as this, angels in their flight must have gazed." We are now up to day 17 of the trip. This is the big day, the big grand finale, the elephant ride, followed by the helicopter ride over the falls, and finally the sunset cruise along the Zambezi River.
People wonder why I answer when Africa calls.